Welcome into OutKick, the show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope all of you are having a fantastic Tuesday. Lot to discuss today. We're going to drive into Joy Reid's tears, Megyn Kelly, border numbers, Star Wars, the Philadelphia Eagles, Brandon Johnson, the least popular mayor anywhere, my obsession with brackets as we get closer to the NCAA tournament. Now that the Super Bowl is over, I will confess that I become obsessed with where teams are going to be seated, what cities they're going to be sent to, what the overall bracket is going to resemble. We'll dive into that and more. I got some picks for you tonight, though. Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Prize Picks, you against the number. And in fact, Prize Picks, best way to win real money this basketball season. Which players are going to perform at a high level, which ones aren't. Make your picks more or less in less than 60 seconds. You can turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. You can play in California. You can play in Texas. You can play in Georgia. You can play in my home state of Tennessee. 13 million people have downloaded this app. You are going to love it. Download it today. Use code OutKick, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money. And here are my picks tonight. Doing something a little bit different. These are college basketball picks. And this basically pays out at 2-1, but I feel like it is virtually a certainty. All right? It's rare that I say virtually a certainty, but I see these numbers, and I think we're going to hit on all three of these, and I think we're going to win easily. All right? Chaz Lanier, he just went for 30 on the road against Texas A&M, playing for Tennessee, shooting guard, more than 1.5 made threes tonight against LSU. That is prong one. Prong two, Walter Clayton Jr., another guard, plays for the Florida Gators. In contention, the Gators are for the overall #1 seed. He's going to have more than 1.5 made three-pointers tonight. And then finally, Zakai Ziegler, Tennessee point guard, one of the best players in college basketball this season, barely comes out of the game as long as he stays out of foul trouble. Also in a game tonight against LSU, he's going to have more than 11.5 points. If I am right about these, you will get just shy of double your money when you hop on the Clay Travis Express and play along. Sign up today. $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to get the $50 bonus, guaranteed. Download the app today. That's code OutKick, $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Chaz Lanier and Walter Clayton Jr., more than 1.5 threes, and Zakai Ziegler, more than 11.5 points, and you will have just shy of a 2-1 payout. Download the app today, code OutKick, $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. I told you that you have to keep your head on a swivel right now. Social media is fast, but it is not always accurate in the very short term. In fact, sometimes there are stories that go mega viral and they don't end up being true. I'm going to give OutKick a pat on the back here because I think our staff, Armando Salguero covering the NFL, our team snuffed out what was a mega viral story that came out of a British tabloid interview with a proposed anonymous source before the Super Bowl even started. And suddenly this thing went viral that the Philadelphia Eagles were going to refuse to go to the White House if they won the Super Bowl. And everybody was writing about it. Everybody was talking about it. And I did my dive and I said, this doesn't really feel like where this would come from, right? Just didn't feel to me like, hey, this kind of story is coming from this location. It's anonymously sourced. I just don't buy it. So I did something crazy. I reached out to the White House and I just asked, hey, have you guys extended an invite to the Philadelphia Eagles to come to the White House? Very shortly thereafter, I got a text back saying, no, we have not. and you can cite a White House source and put that out there, because we have seen this story going viral too. In fact, we would appreciate if you would do it. So I put up my tweet, say that a White House source has told me no invite's been extended out, and that there has been no conversation about the Eagles not wanting to come. Then we reach out, part of the OutKick staff, Armando Salguero. We get him to reach out to the Eagles. He has good relationships. And yesterday afternoon, after we finished the show, what happens? The Eagles let it be known through all of the NFL insider types that not only have they not rejected an offer to the White House, they welcome one and they look forward to attending the White House. Good for the Eagles, good for the NFL. The vibe shift is real. It wasn't very long ago that the Philadelphia Eagles, after they won their last Super Bowl with Nick Foles pulling off the upset over Tom Brady, the team chose not to go to the Super Bowl. They didn't like Trump. They said, we're not going to go. This was emblematic of the Trump era. Teams refusing offers and opportunities to go meet with the president. How much have things changed? 8 years later, basically, the Eagles are now saying, we welcome the invite. We can't wait to go. Things are very different in Trump 2.0. Those of us who fought back against the woke sports universe, we have won. And we are returning to a sense of normalcy which existed for most of the sports era in my life in America. We're not all there, but we are moving rapidly back towards the 1980s, the 1990s, the early 2000s, when it didn't matter what political party you represented or supported, or if you didn't even care about politics at all, we were all one big tribe of sports fans. As Michael Jordan put it, Republicans buy sneakers too. The Republicans buy sneakers too era of sports is back. Trump was cheered at the Super Bowl. Trump was cheered at the Daytona 500. Men overwhelmingly support Donald Trump's presidency, 60-40 according to a recent CBS News poll, 57-40 according to a recent Harvard-Harris poll that came out yesterday. And I believe the NFL is letting it be known, hey, we're not picking fights anymore. We're excited to be welcomed into the White House. And the Eagles story that went mega viral was 100% false, and I think OutKick did a really good job of covering it and getting the truth out there. Now, a couple of other stories that are out there. I am, in the world of sports, obsessed with the NCAA tournament bracket. The bracketologists out there who are constantly trying to decide who's the 1 seeds, who are the 2 seeds, what regions are they going to be sent out to. I can't get enough of this stuff. I unabashedly love all of it. In fact, this is kind of how my sports calendar goes. Football season starts sometime in August, right? That's when I start doing my deep dive. Like a lot of you, I still like to get the old print magazines. I like to read about college football. I like to read about the NFL. Then I'm all in on football from August all the way through the Super Bowl. Then I take a break from football. As soon as the Super Bowl is over, I turn to the NCAA tournament, and I am a diehard, obsessive college basketball fan. I want to know what the bracket seedings are going to be. I start looking them up every day. I woke up this morning, go look at all the news. One of the first things I do is go check out how the seedings are looking for bracketology, okay? I'm going to be obsessed with this all the way through the NCAA tournament. And then I start to pivot once the tournament is set, though, into also being obsessed with NFL mock drafts. Because to me, the 2025, but this is true for me for multiple years, sports calendar goes college football, NFL. It then goes straight into the NCAA tournament. For about 6 weeks, I am an obsessive NCAA basketball fan, maybe 2 months. Then I go straight into NFL draft season, and I read everything about the NFL draft. One thing that has changed for me recently is because my sons, my boys, are Braves fans, I now pay a lot of attention to Major League Baseball, to the Braves. I used to take off a lot of the summer and just not really pay aggressive attention. And I used to love the NBA for the playoffs. I would come in for the NBA playoffs and watch that for a couple of months. I don't care about the NBA as much. Major League Baseball has risen up, the Atlanta Braves in particular, as something that I care about. I don't know how many of you are also, though, crazy bracketologists, but I'm at the point where I want updates every night. There are a bunch of games. I'm going to be kicking back tonight. I just gave you my prize picks on college basketball. I will be watching to see how tonight's outcome, in particular the games in the SEC, are going to impact things going forward. I really am enjoying watching Cooper Flagg. Guys, we should have written a big article about this if we didn't. Credit to Dan Dakich. I saw that he had Jim Boeheim on, and Boeheim told him that he thought Cooper Flagg may be the best one-and-done player that he's seen. Better than Anthony Davis, better than Carmelo Anthony, who he coached, better than Derrick Rose. There have obviously been a lot of one-and-done guys, because you're required to go to college basketball basically before you can go into the NBA at the age of 19. That's a really strong vote of confidence from Jim Boeheim, who not only has seen every great college basketball player for the last 40 years, but also coached one of them, Carmelo Anthony, who led Syracuse to the national championship in his 1 year. And certainly that is, I would imagine, the moonshot, the aspirational target for Cooper Flagg to emulate this year in his one season. Theoretically, I know he's been talking about staying, but I think he's going to be gone. There's just too much money when you get into the second and third NBA contract. To me, I think, to be willing to stay at Duke for another season. But I did think that was a strong endorsement. I'll be watching Cooper Flagg. They play Miami tonight, I think. I'll be watching him to see how he does. I actually really have enjoyed watching him. I think he could be a real asset to the NBA and their broken brand. So I'm all in on this. Let me give you a positive. Sometimes people say, not enough positive. You don't talk, Clay, about enough positive news. Let me give you an incredibly positive story that hardly anybody is talking about. This is from the Washington Post. One of the primary promises that Trump made when he was elected was, I will shut down the southern border. I will not allow illegals to come pouring across our southern border, and I will be deporting violent criminals and illegal immigrants who don't belong here and are breaking our laws. This is from the Washington Post. Only 15,700 illegal immigrants were encountered in the first 30 days of Trump's administration. That is the lowest 30-day number of border encounters since April 2017. Encounters are down 94% from their high point of 263,900 in December 2023 under Joe Biden. They're down 91% from the 166,900 monthly average during the 4 calendar years of Joe Biden. And they're down 80% from their average of 78,200 during the past quarter century nearly from 2000 to 2024. This is according to Mark Thiessen from the Washington Post. Wow. Promises made, promises kept from Trump on the southern border. That thing is not getting hardly any media attention, and I want to make sure that I address it because I said this was an economy, border, crime election, and Trump has already delivered in 1 month's time on the border, and he did it with executive orders with his pen, proving what he said all along, that Joe Biden didn't need congressional authority to shut down the southern border. He had the executive authority to protect our southern border as a part of his presidential powers. So I wanted to make sure that I shared that. I don't even know that it matters politically. That is an incredible accomplishment. Good for Donald Trump. I've got a clip for you. Joy Reid was fired, and she cried about it. And then Rachel Maddow came out and said, "Oh, this is racist." I've got some great numbers from Megyn Kelly, but Trump has broken MSNBC. He has broken CNN, the Washington Post, the New York Times. All of the legacy media outlets opposed to him have collapsed. He is the rock upon which their business models have broken. And now Rachel Maddow is even saying Joy Reid being replaced, guys, that's racist. Watch.
In all of the jobs I have had, in all of the years I have been alive, there is no colleague for whom I have had more affection and more respect than Joy Reid. And personally, I think it is a bad mistake to let her walk out the door. It is not my call, and I understand that, but that's what I think. I will tell you, it is also unnerving to see that on a network where we've got two non-white hosts in primetime, both of our non-white hosts in primetime are losing their shows, as is Katie Fang on the weekend. And that feels worse than bad, no matter who replaces them. That feels indefensible, and I do not defend it.
Well, if Rachel Maddow really thinks that MSNBC is racist, she can resign and insist that a minority be hired to replace her. She makes $25 million a year. She could go to her bosses at MSNBC and say, hey, I'll take $5 million a year. I want you to give my other $20 million in salary to minority employees that I don't think are respected enough by the bosses here. Have I missed that? Has Rachel Maddow offered to pay Joy Reid any of her salary? Has she offered to give up her job so that a more deserving minority newscaster could have her television salary and her television spot? I must be missing that. This, though, is the reality. MSNBC is broken, and it's broken because their audience has vanished. Megyn Kelly, love Megyn Kelly, super smart, does fabulous work, has a wildly popular show. She took you behind the scenes. Here is the truth. If you don't own your own business and you work in a for-profit arena, your job is to make money for your boss. And if you make a lot of money for your boss, you yourself are going to make a lot of money. If you, however, do not make a lot of money, then you yourself are going to be on the chopping block. And if you cost your boss money, someday you probably are going to be fired. That is the reality of for-profit universe. I have said this for a long time. I say it to my boys now. Whatever you do for a living, if you find a way to make your boss's money, you will always have a job. Figure out how your company makes money and do whatever you can to make your company as much money as possible. And you, my friend, will not only always have a job, you will thrive and you will continue to make more money. Okay? So the reason Joy Reid got fired isn't because MSNBC is racist. It's because nobody's watching her show. And the only way you make money off of shows is by having large viewership, large listenership. For instance, I'm on Clay and Buck. It's probably the most profitable radio show in America. Do you know why it is? Because the audience is massive. Because the podcast audience is massive. And when you have a massive audience, you can charge a large amount to advertisers because then the advertiser is going to make money off of your audience. Most of our advertisers on Clay and Buck make 4 or 5x whatever they spend on advertising. That's why they spend what they do. Okay, so Megyn Kelly took you behind the curtain here. She looked up the numbers, which nobody else is talking about. She said Joy Reid only had 59,000 viewers, ages 25 to 54, for her show last week. She also laid out that that is a minuscule number compared to what the competitors had. She said at the same time, Laura Ingraham on Fox News had 389,000 viewers ages 25 to 54. So head-to-head with Laura Ingraham, MSNBC had about an eighth of the youthful audience, defining youthful broadly, 25 to 54, as what Fox News had. In fact, Fox News now draws a larger Democrat independent audience than the audience that tunes in for MSNBC or CNN. But Joy Reid wasn't even doing well with 25 to 54-year-olds compared to CNN, which had almost twice her viewership. The reason why Joy Reid got fired is not because she's a moron, and it's not because her takes against Trump are awful, ill-advised, unintelligent, and lacking in any substance. It's because nobody watched. She could have had the same awful show, and if she had the audience that Laura Ingraham did, not only would she have kept her show, she would have gotten a raise. It's easy to kick and scream and blame others for why you failed. It's easy to cry, as Joy Reid did, at the cancellation of her show. It's easy for Rachel Maddow to sit back and say this is about racism. But the reality is this is about viewership. Joy Reid is in the business of drawing viewers, and nobody watched her show. And when nobody watches your show, or when nobody listens to your show, you're eventually going to get fired. That's the hard truth. Whether you're doing local radio like I did back in the day in Nashville, or whether you're doing a national television show, ratings, ratings, ratings. It is the scoreboard. It is the entirety of the business. And the reason Joy Reid got fired and many other people are getting fired at MSNBC is because their shows don't move the needle, and the people who are most desirable in the advertising audience, those viewers 25 to 54, are not showing up and watching her programming. Again, Megyn Kelly laid out all the numbers. Great job by her. Rachel Maddow said it's racism. It's just Joy Reid doesn't have much of an audience at all, and it's continuing to decline instead of growing. Bye, Joy. And now I think her career is basically over. She got an opportunity for 5 years to convince Americans that they should be watching her, and she failed. And now she's out on her ass. That's life in media. A couple of other stories that are out there. Kathleen Kennedy, speaking of out on her ass, Kathleen Kennedy was given control of the Star Wars universe, the Star Wars franchise, and she lit it on fire and destroyed it. Many of you out there are like me. You grew up in the 80s, in the 90s, as big Star Wars fans. Maybe also some of you in the 70s. And you love Star Wars. George Lucas obviously created Star Wars, has continued to expand it, sold his company to LucasArts, to Disney. Disney then put Kathleen Kennedy in charge, and she proceeded to DEI and wokeify Star Wars. And over time, the amount of viewers of Star Wars movies collapsed, such that they put a pause on all Star Wars programming because it was not increasing the profitability for the Star Wars universe. Now Kathleen Kennedy is out, and hopefully Star Wars will do something radical, strange, and incredible. Just focus on making good programming. Don't worry about what the race is of somebody in Star Wars. Don't worry about what the gender is of somebody in Star Wars. Don't worry about what the sexuality of somebody in Star Wars is. Just make a good program that people want to consume and are excited to see. Disney got woke and broke almost every asset it has. ESPN, Star Wars, Marvel, even Disney itself canceled a friggin' amusement park ride because they decided the amusement park ride, Splash Mountain, was racist. I can't believe that that was real. I can't believe it was, I can't believe that it actually existed as it did. But credit hopefully it's not too far gone. Someone new can be put in charge of Star Wars. Remember how well South Park did ridiculing Kathleen Kennedy? Hopefully they can go back to just making good stories in the Star Wars universe again. Finally, a lot of talk about politicians. I saw these numbers and I couldn't believe they were real. You know, I was in Chicago a couple of weeks ago. I went and spoke at the University of Chicago, had a fabulous time up there. Chicago in the summer, great city. I've got a lot of friends that are in Chicago. My wife is from the Midwest. Chicago is like a funnel. If you're from the Midwest, it's like at some point in your life you have to live there. It draws from every other city, Detroit, Pittsburgh, Milwaukee, Indianapolis, Columbus, whatever city, Cincinnati, you're in the Midwest, Minneapolis. At some point in time, you find your way into Chicago if you're trying to be a success in the Midwest. It's crazy. Everybody ends up there. Great city. I don't like the cold weather. Great city. They have the worst decision-making of any city in America when it comes to mayors. Lori Lightfoot was an unmitigated disaster during COVID. They replaced Lori Lightfoot with actually a worse mayor, which I didn't believe was possible. This guy named Brandon Johnson. We talk a lot about the mayor, New York City, Eric Adams, I don't know, C-. Right now, you look out west at L.A., you got Karen Bass. I would give her an F. The approval rating of the mayor of Chicago is 6%, according to a poll that came down that I saw yesterday. Let me repeat that. 6% approval, 80% disapproval, 13% no opinion. I have never seen an approval rating for a politician this low in the modern era. Congratulations, Windy City. You had maybe the worst mayor in the entire country in Lori Lightfoot. She got beaten and didn't even make the runoff. And you managed to pick Brandon Johnson, who is somehow even worse than Lori Lightfoot. Great city, awful leaders. Sooner or later, failure of leadership catches up with even the best cities. And right now, Chicago, I would argue, is the worst run city in America, which is saying something because Los Angeles couldn't even put out fires as recently as a little over a month ago. All right. Love all of you. My name is Clay Travis. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. Remember, Chaz Lanier, more than 1.5 threes. Walter Clayton Jr., more than 1.5 threes. And Zakai Ziegler, more than 11.5 points. If we hit on that, just shy of a 2-to-1 payout. PrizePicks.com. Code OutKick. I will see you guys tomorrow.